So I walked away from my fiance of 14 years, 15 days after we got engaged to start a new life. At the time, I was 32 years old and I walked away from everything that I knew and everything that I was supposed to be, my job, my relationship, the version of me that made other people comfortable, and I don't regret it. It's now 3 years later and I'm ready to talk about it. Hi, my name is Howla. I'm a British scientist and a creative living in New York City, and I create content around self-reinvention and wellness. In this particular video, I'm going to share the story of how I blew up my whole life and how it was the best decision that I ever made. I want to start by sharing the backstory. So on the surface, my life in the UK looked great. Looking in from the outside, I had a lot of things going for me. I had a 9-to-5 job. I had a growing music career. I was running a successful wellness business. I was in a very happy and healthy relationship, living in London, just really doing the thing that any young person would do. I was essentially a success and growing. But just underneath the surface, I was so depressed. I was so lost. I was so unhappy. I can't articulate how deep the despair and the depression was. And I've been depressed since 2008. I can take it back as far as that. But at that point, it just really blew up. It was so intense. I was crying all the time. I was in therapy, but nothing I did was helping. I had reached breaking point and something had to give. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here today. So I shared my situation and my feelings with a friend of mine, an older friend of mine. And he said to me, he said something along the lines of, you will never be yourself. You'll never find your true self if you don't flee the nest. Fly the coop now. And at the time, I was so deeply enmeshed with my friends, my family, my relationship with my fiance. I was so dependent on all of those people and all of those relationships that I really didn't have a sense of identity. When he said that, I already had like a little voice telling me, you have to go and you have to go now. You have to make a change now. Otherwise, this is over. And we did an exercise at the time. I was trying to decide between going back to school for psychology or marketing, delving deeper into marketing. He suggested we do this exercise where every single day I write down on a piece of paper either psychology or marketing, and I put it in a box. And at the end of 30 days, I take it out and I see what the majority of the paper said. And whatever it says, I have to choose, I have to do, right? So that's what we did for 30 days. And at the end of those 30 days, it was psychology. I wanted to connect with people. I wanted to learn about human behavior. But I knew that I didn't want to do it in the UK. I had already been to school in the UK and I wanted a change. So I decided to look into New York. And this is where the New York story starts. So at this point, it is 2021 and we are in full lockdown. But I know that as soon as everything opens up again, I have to make a change. So I started looking at universities in the US. I really knew that I wanted to move to New York. That's my favorite city. So I knew I wanted to live in New York. I looked at Columbia and I looked at NYU, and I chose NYU because it had a spring term. I only applied to that one school, and for that spring term, I figured if I don't get in the spring term, I can always try for the autumn term. So I applied for my master's in 2021, and in November, found out that I had got a place at NYU. I was shocked. I was seriously as shocked as anybody could be. But I got in, right? And at that point, it was November, as I said, and my whole life changed. Once that decision was made, I quit my 9-to-5 job. We sold our wellness business in the UK. We handed in our lease notice to our landlord that we were giving up the apartment or the flat. And we moved back to Oxford for a month to just tie everything up, see our family, say our goodbyes. And in January 2022, we got engaged. I said to my fiance, I don't want to move to another continent as a girlfriend. I want some sort of security. And we were talking about it anyway. We were talking about getting engaged. So we got engaged on January the 4th or the 6th, and then I flew out to New York City on the 19th to start this whole new life on my own, without him, without my family, no support network. I just took the leap. I would like to say that it was an easy transition, but it was not. I would be lying. It was difficult. The first week, I moved into a hotel. It was a Sonda hotel in downtown Manhattan, and I spent a week there. I then moved from that hotel, went to another hotel within the same region as well. There was a blizzard, it was in the middle of winter, and it was still locked down. So there was no socializing, and I'm just moving my suitcase from one location to another. I then decided, nope, can't do this. I have to find an apartment. I have to find a permanent situation. Now, remember, I have no job. I have no history, no credit history in the USA. So all the money that we are using is coming from the UK. The salaries in the UK are not equal to the salaries in the US. So it was a very, very tight shoestring or a tight budget that we were working with. I find a studio apartment in the financial district. I move in, start putting everything together, start putting my life together, preparing hopefully for my then fiance to join me. We still don't know whether he's going to get the visa, whether he's going to get transferred by his work. So we're really moving on faith. We're really just moving on delusion. I was happy. I had done what I wanted to do, what I set out to do. But I was also very lonely, and the depression started to creep back in. I was also living in a studio apartment with no sunlight. Sunlight is life. Everything started to hit me. I started to realize what it is that I had actually done, leaving everything behind, leaving my fiance behind, not knowing what the future was going to bring for us. I started to question my decisions. There were moments, there were days, weeks that I spent crying every single day, just regretting my decision, but also knowing that I'm on this path and I can't just quit and go back. So yeah, cry in New York and then go to your lecture, cry and then go and try to find friends, try to build a network. It was a very, very lonely time for me. I struggled to build my network, to make friends, but I also knew that I can't go back. I cannot quit at the beginning. 8 months later, my husband's visa got approved and he was moving to New York. He joined me in New York in August, and the relief, the happiness that we both felt that he was moving is indescribable. And at that time as well, we found out that I was pregnant. I had gone back to the UK for a few weeks and your girl fell pregnant. So really and truly, he had to move because I was a pregnant woman in New York with my fiance in the UK. So very happy he got the visa. Within a week of my husband arriving in New York, we found out that our pregnancy was not viable, our baby was ill, and that we had to end the pregnancy. It was going to end one way or another. And remember, with everything that is happening, I'm also still doing my graduate program. I didn't drop out. I'm also now working with my publishers, writing music. I'm transitioning. I'm just trying to establish myself in New York, and I'm going through all of this turmoil. It was incredibly hard. Relationship changes, relationships ending, lost my faith in God, lost confidence in everything that I thought I knew, everything that I had built up until that point. Everything was falling apart. I wanted to end it all. I didn't want to go back to the UK because I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to exist anymore. I had ideations. My big leap went from one of hope, one of excitement, exhilaration, independence, confidence, to one of complete brokenness, one of complete and utter hell. So where is the light? Where is the hope? How did I get to the point where this big change that I had made and everything that had happened in between was for the best? Here's where everything changed. Here's where my perspective changed and where I am today. Firstly, the 6 months that I spent in New York on my own were such a transformative time. I figured out that I could stand on my own 2 feet. I could exist outside of all of my relationships, do my own thing. I spent time alone and really started reflecting on myself, what I wanted to contribute to the world. I was doing things on my own, making new friends. As difficult as it was, I was making new friends. I was putting myself out there, challenging myself, learning new things on my master's, learning new skills in a new country. And it was honestly rewiring my brain. When you go into a new environment, when you are going through a change, it rewires your brain, whether you want to or not, because you are learning new things. If you allow yourself, if you open yourself up. So that's the first 6 months. These are all the positive things that have happened to me since I moved to New York City, and why I do not regret the decision that I made. Firstly, my health has been transformed. Going through the pregnancy losses also meant that I was having access to top tier healthcare and resources for me to really work on my health. I started IVF. If I was in the UK, I would not have been able to afford it privately, and I would have been on the NHS list for years before I could have access and any hope of starting my family. At the same time, I started therapy. In the UK, I had not been to regular, consistent therapy. And in the US, I started to go consistently every single week, working with a professional to help me change my mental health, help me change my perspective, help me get through the difficult transitions that I was experiencing. I finally graduated. I have completed a master's at NYU, and I am in disbelief. At times, I didn't think I was going to make it. When I was struggling, when I was going through everything that I was going through, I did not think I was going to complete this thing, going to write my thesis and do all this research. There was no way. And in fact, I delayed it. I actually took longer than I would normally take. It's a 2-year program, but I finished it in 3 years. Nevertheless, I made it, and I cannot believe I am a Master of Psychology. I have achieved the thing that started everything off. I have finally accomplished that, and I'm just so happy. I'm so proud. I am so grateful that I was able to afford to do this out of pocket. I paid for the whole master's on my own, and it's just a big accomplishment. You really don't know what you're capable of until you do it. Next, I married my husband. I think I never saw myself getting married in the UK. I think I've always seen myself getting married abroad, and that happened. We got married in New York City, my favorite city, the best city in the world. Got married here, and that was another thing, that was another positive thing to tick off. And it only happened because I made that leap. It only happened because I made that change. I moved here. Back on the health aspect, I think that's been the biggest change for me. I mentioned I have PCOS and fibroids. If you don't know anything about PCOS, it's a reproductive health condition. And women with it suffer from metabolic issues. We suffer from hormonal imbalances, insulin resistance. It means we struggle to maintain or lose weight, and a host of other symptoms. Not every woman suffers from the same symptoms. So my major one is infertility and inability to lose weight easily. So during this period, I gained a lot of weight. I was eating, but also my PCOS really prevented me from losing the weight even when I was trying. So I've now finally managed to lose 75 pounds in 7 months or less. I really started my fitness. I can now run. I can do 10K, 20K walks every single day. I go to a workout class. I'm just in my prime health. I am in tip-top health, and hopefully this is going to help us get pregnant. It's going to help us realize our family dreams. Another change that I have made is my dental work. So I've started my dental journey. This has been on the cards for years. Back when I was in the UK, I had consultations. I wanted to get Invisalign. I wanted to get braces to close my gap a little bit, because it seems to be getting larger the older I get, and I just wanted to deal with it. And now I've started my journey. I've had teeth removed, I had crowns put in. I now also have my Invisalign. I don't think I'm planning on closing the gap completely, just a little bit more than it currently is. Well and truly on the path to the smile of my dreams. Another big change is that I've started my venture. At heart, I am an entrepreneur, and I've really come to terms with the fact that I am not made for a traditional career. I'm not made for a 9 to 5, and I have finally made the jump to commit to this new path. I, of course, have a music career, and that's very entrepreneurial actually. I'm very much on my own apart from my publisher. So I finally made the leap and committed to my entrepreneurship as my career path. I am building an exciting venture in women's health and wellness, and it's just, yeah, it's mind-blowing, the things that I'm doing right now, the meetings that I'm having, the conversations I am having. It's just, who am I even? Who am I? Finally, the person that I am today is not the person that I was in my previous life. I am not the same person that I was a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I'm a completely different person. I like myself. I have had the opportunity to sit with myself, my thoughts, my soul, and really work on who I want to be. I feel like I am building myself. I am creating myself intentionally. And it is the most happiest, the most confident that I have been. I can honestly say I have not been this happy or this at peace since 2008. The fact that I am happy to be here, I'm happy to be alive, there is value and a purpose to life, is mind-blowing, because this is not where I was before. It is absolutely not where I was before. So I'm very, very grateful to be at this point. All in all, this has not just been a physical transformation from moving from one place to another or changing my physical appearance. It has been a mental and spiritual and emotional transformation. I have had to rewire my brain. I've had to rewire the very essence of me and excavate and cultivate a new being. This journey has been such a transformative thing for me that I don't regret any part of it. I've learned so much about myself, so much about humans, so much about life, that had I not been through what I have gone through, I would not be the person that I am today. I would not be in love with who I am today. I wouldn't love my husband the way I love him. I wouldn't appreciate my relationships and friendships the way I appreciate them now. And the biggest thing is that I wouldn't parent the way I plan on parenting. My fertility journey has changed me down to my DNA. It has changed everything about my hopes, my dreams. And I'm just so grateful that all of that happened, as regretful as I am about the pain that I experienced or the losses. It's not even the pain I experienced, the losses, the life that could have been, as much as I want it. I also know that they came here to teach me a lesson, and they will be back in their own time, in the right time. And I will be such an incredible parent to them. I would not have had all these realizations had I not taken the leap, burnt everything down, left everything behind, and started over. My journey and my story brings me to this. I hope whoever's watching this is inspired and is encouraged. If you have a little voice, a niggling feeling telling you to jump, to take the leap, to make the change, get your ducks in order and make the change. I encourage you to explore that voice, to explore what it is wanting you to do and how you can do it, and trust yourself, have the belief in yourself, and know that you will be guided, you will be caught if you fall, you will be helped along the way. Despite what other people might say, despite what it will look like on the outside, I challenge you to make a change, a small change, but a change nevertheless. Change doesn't need to be big. It doesn't have to be grand. It just has to be small, intentional. And I wish you all the luck in the world.